Perfect. So we will go ahead and start. And I think we have a few more people that may be joining us throughout the call. As we mentioned, some people are traveling, and we completely understand that happens. So, but as Emily said, I think these live Q&A sessions are when people can get the most out of the program. So first of all, I want to say congratulations, because we know that some of you were able to watch the videos, but no worries if you didn't. We're going to go over some high points on this call. And so I'm going to get interactive with you all in just 1 minute, but one of the main themes that I always have about managing cash flow, I don't really like the word budget. I don't think people like to be on a budget, but I talk a lot about that there has to be this balance between enjoying your money today, but also setting aside some money to be planning for the future. So a lot of times people think that most financial planners are going to say, you should save every penny, you should never go out to eat, never buy yourself a pair of shoes. And whereas our approach is very much more of a balanced approach. It's about, again, enjoying your money today as well as saving for tomorrow. So with that, I thought we would get started by asking each of you, what is one thing or one area where you would like to spend some money to enjoy your money today? And what is one area where you would like to save more for tomorrow? So actually, Emily, do you want me to pick on you? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that I'll say that I am really hard on myself, because right now I don't have an income because I quit my job to start this company. And I have cut off my ability to get manicures and pedicures, but the thing is I love those. And so that's something that I need to allow myself to do in the future, and not feel guilty about it. Because it brings me joy and it brings me value, and it's something that really gives me energy to kind of get through my day. I honestly have saved quite a bit of money over the last 10 years, so I'm not currently actively saving, but that's just kind of the situation that I'm currently in.
Cool. So Anne or Sarah, which one of you want to go next?
I'm going to unmute Anne.
Okay.
So I'm up?
You are up.
Okay. Well, I guess as most girls, I really like to shop, and I probably do a little bit too much of it right now. But also, I'm a student, so I am not saving a lot of my own money, and we're just saving off of my husband's income right now, which, can be, we're not saving as much as we probably should be, but we are saving some, so, that's why we want to budget a little bit more to save more in that aspect.
Very good.
Sounds great.
And just because you're not saving doesn't mean that you can't help cut out expenses in other areas, to make you feel like you're also helping that way. So you should be proud of that.
Emily, remember that I'll talk about that at one point, to the idea of, a lot of times when you go through a period of time where you're not able to save as much because you're doing something big with your life, like going back to school or saving for a house, we'll make sure we talk about that tonight. And then Sarah.
Sarah, can you hear us? We'll come back to Sarah. Shelly, thanks for joining us. Let's see if we can unmute you. Are you there?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah, James is on the phone in the background.
Oh, hey, James.
So I guess you want me to share too?
Yeah. What's something you want to spend more money on and something you want to save for?
I am also like the last person who talked. I spend a little too much. Like, I just like to shop and like sometimes just go to Target, and I often find myself like spending money on things that I don't need, but just because it's cheap, and I feel like I've saved a little, so I feel like I earn some extra spending money, and so that's one area. And in fact, I gave it up for Lent.
Oh, it's a good one.
Extra money. But that's one area that I feel like I spend a little too much money.
Awesome. No drama. Wendy, let's see if we can unmute you. Do you want to share something with us?
We're talking about
Can
something.
you hear me?
I don't know if
I'm
you've
sorry.
got
I have you on mute. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. I think something that we would like to spend more, be able to spend more money on or do more often, I think is maybe like those weekend getaways with just us or with our family. We do budget a certain amount every month for, it's like our restaurant entertainment fund, but because we're in a debt reduction mode, it's not the hugest, fund. And I think we'd like to just have a little more available. So I guess that's a now and a long term. But then I think, so it was, what would we like to do more now and then long term? And I think for the saving more, I think we really need to beef up our emergency fund. It's definitely not big enough. So I think that's our first saving priority.
Sounds great. Those are great things too, Wendy. Emily, did we have anyone join us, or should I go?
Nope, move forward. Well, we've missed Sarah, but I think Sarah's audio might be having an issue, so we'll come back to her later.
Okay, great. We have a great a group of almost all women. I think there may be some men in the background listening, but we're not excluding men from this event, just so you all know. So I think for us, one of the things that I would like to spend more money on is doing a few more things around our house. So that is a current one I'd like to do more of. And then the saving part I'd like to be doing more of is increasing what we're saving for our kids for college. We started out at just a pretty basic low amount, and I'd like to be able to increase that. So unless I can talk Aunt Emily into starting to fund the kids' college funds, but I don't think that's going to happen. So anyways, so we will go from there. The next thing that I want to ask all of you before we, again, because we want this to be as customized as possible tonight, are there any like real burning questions that all of you had? So whether if you watched the modules or not, and again, the idea tonight is we're talking about cash flow and managing cash flow, which is, many of you know also, it is the base to your financial plan. It impacts every other area. So in the next module that you'll start receiving tomorrow, that's all about what types of accounts you should be investing in. So it's everything from college savings to retirement. Well, if you're wanting to save more or pay down more debt, you have to find that money somewhere. And so it all sort of comes back to the sort of managing the money coming in and out. So that's what we're talking about tonight. So do any of you have any burning questions or real sticking points or obstacles that you're running into? And Emily, should they click the button to raise their hand? Emily, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I don't know if everyone's on the web app, it doesn't look like. So I'm just going to open up the lines one by one and ask you if you have a question. So, Anne, do you have any questions for us? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to go to Chally. Chally, do you have any questions for us? Like burning ones that you or James have?
No burning questions from the Fuller guys.
Oh, James said no, we don't have any burning questions right now.
Okay, perfect. Sarah, do you have any questions right now? Anything we can open up with?
Yeah, we did have a question. I think one of our biggest questions is right now we have a HELOC that we took out to do a home renovation last year, and that's at 4.5% loan. And then we also have a car loan that's a much lower amount, but it's at 2.75. And so I'm wondering, which one we should pay off first? Should we pay off the car loan because it's the lower amount, or should we pay off the HELOC first because it's the larger number, and to kind of throw money at that one first to try to get on top of that?
Emily, do you want me to go ahead and answer that? Let's answer each of these as they come so I don't forget about them. And I think this is a great question, and there will be, and we'll address it tonight right now, but there's also going to be a great module in the next, or a great video in the next module that's all about prioritization, which this comes down to. So first of all, with your car loan that's at 2.75%, I wouldn't necessarily recommend paying that off any faster than you're scheduled to pay it off. So most car loans are set up on 5-year car loans. And that rate, that 2.75%, is such a low rate that I wouldn't necessarily recommend paying that off any faster than just paying your regular principal and interest every month. And the reason for that is because let's say that you have an extra $100 a month that you're either going to put towards paying more off on the car loan, or you're possibly going to invest it. Obviously not on days like today in the stock market, but in general, if you were to take that money and save it over a longer historical period of time, that money will outperform, because you would hope you get a much higher rate of return on an investment than you would get than the interest rate on the loan. So I don't recommend usually that people pay off loans that are at those nice low rates any faster than they're scheduled. And then for the home equity line, a home equity line still, I think I always say there's good debt and there's bad debt. Good debt is a mortgage that you can afford. Good debt are student loan debts that you can pay the payments on. And I would put car loans really in that good debt part. And I put a home equity line, as long as it's not getting out of control, in that good-ish debt. I personally, so we do have a home equity line on our house that we have borrowed on occasionally for different things. And I personally just don't like having it. I feel like, to me, it feels like it's a credit card. And so I usually do, when we have borrowed against it, I've been pretty aggressive at trying to pay it down. But then again, that's at a very low rate, and the interest on the home equity line is tax deductible. So I guess my point is, and this is where, for you all, this will be a great thing for us to talk about when we have our one-on-one session. I'll have a one-on-one session with each of you, because we can look at sort of where your savings goals are and then with the home equity line, and we'll find a balance between how much you should be saving versus how much you should be using to pay down the home equity line. Does that sort of answer your question a little bit better?
Yeah, that's helpful. I think that was our biggest burning question. And so I think when we just speak one-on-one, then we can kind of just set up a plan from there. So thank you.
Perfect.
Good question, Sarah. Everyone asks us that. People come in and they say, I want to pay down student debt, or I want to pay down other debt. Sometimes you're better off investing in the market, because your return in the market will just pay for that on its own. So Wendy, do you have any burning questions?
Yeah, I think it's a strategy or priority question along those lines. We've been, for the last year, working on picking off our debt, like a credit card or whatever, one by one. And so the way we've set up our budget is that we spend all of our money first, like we allocate it to our bills. We kind of follow what the Mint demo was doing. So we've been successful by dumping that money in. However, our savings, we haven't really been doing much, outside of a couple accounts, to pay off the bill, the quarterly bill or whatever. And so we've been doing okay if emergencies come up, because we need a water heater. Well, that just slashes that bill payment that we were going to make. And so I don't know, should we, is it a good idea to continue to be aggressive by putting that extra? I'm starting to think it's not so good to just dump it all toward the bill and pay that off faster with the goal of saving later. But how do you determine what the good balance between aggressive bill paying and savings should be? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's actually another question we get all the time, so I'm glad you asked it. So I always say this to people at one point, and I'm sure I'll probably say it a few times throughout this whole program. There are two different ways to look at financial decisions, and one is the actual financial impact. That's the numbers and everything, and that's one side to it. The other one is the emotional side of money, and I think it's important to look at both, because You could be a lot of times I'll tell people at the end of the day, you could go route A or route B, and you're pretty much going to end up at the end of the day in the same position. So see which one will reduce your stress or make you happier. So the reason I say that is because if it will make you feel a lot more secure to have a bit of an emergency fund, and if it will alleviate your stress, then go ahead and do that. If that alleviates stress, you should absolutely consider that. Now I'm going to give you the financial answer to it, and that is I do recommend for people who have credit card balances, and we do have a fair number of that with a lot of different people in this program, so you're not the only one. I do recommend to just pay the credit card down as quickly as possible and not really worry about the emergency fund. You may want to have a little bit in them, maybe a couple $100, depending on what your expenses are on a regular basis, maybe a $500 in a savings account, just to be a little bit of a buffer. But I recommend to pay on those credit cards because quite often interest rates on those credit cards are so high. And as much as I don't recommend for people someone who is, the goal to work towards is to have an emergency fund available. But if you are in a situation where you're paying down debt, essentially your credit cards sort of are your emergency fund in that time. So it's not like you don't have, when the water heater goes out, that you don't have access to buy that item. It just means that you're going a little bit backwards on paying down your credit card debt. So again, the financial answers, I usually recommend to pay down that credit card debt as much as possible. But if it's causing you a huge source of stress to not have a little bit of a buffer, then it's not going to make or break you if you save up a bit of a buffer that would make you feel a little bit better. Does that help?
Yeah, I actually feel a lot more confident about what we're doing. So it was great to hear that. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Emily, do we have other people for questions?
Nope, we had everyone.
Okay, sounds good. And one of the things I was going to mention earlier too, thank you, almost everyone sent in really great goals for what they're hoping to accomplish in this program. And so many of these items really tie into what we're talking about tonight. So we have people who are wanting to pay down home equity loans, purchasing new cars, getting an emergency fund in place, paying off credit cards, saving for down payments, having more money available to save, another one, so saving for a condo. So there's so many of these goals that are directly impacted by cash flow, because if you're going to save for a down payment on a new house, if you're paying off credit card debt, you have to find that money somewhere. And so it all starts with getting a good sense on what's coming in and what's going out. So if you had watched the modules, and I think Emily provided the worksheet that we like to use. So I'm going to do a really high-level overview of the videos because I know that some people didn't get a chance to watch them. So I'm just going to give you the key points from it. And so first of all, we provided the worksheet, and I usually recommend that people start with that. You go back and look at where your expenses, where your money has gone over the last 3 months, is usually a good amount of time. You plug that in. You also plug in how much has your take-home pay been in those 3 months. You can either do it as a 3-month number or you can divide it by 3, so you're looking at the monthly number. Usually people look at budgets, and again, sorry to use that word again, but I'll probably be throwing it out sometime. So when you're working on your budget, people usually do it on a monthly basis. So you want to look to see if there is any surplus or deficit. And what that means is when you take what you make minus the total of all of your expenses, that is going to either be a positive number or a negative number. And it's really, really good to take a look at that positive number, because I will sometimes have clients come in and they have a positive number of $1,000 a month. And I'm like, okay, great. So if you really have a positive $1,000 every month, that means that money had to have gone somewhere. It just doesn't evaporate. It either needs to be sitting in an account, it either needs to be accumulating an account somewhere, or it really is that you spent it. So really pay attention to that number that it comes down at the bottom. And the same thing is true if it's showing a negative amount. I'll say, okay, so it's showing negative $1,000. So are you accumulating debt somewhere? Again, the money can't just come from nowhere. So really pay attention to that number that you come up with down at the bottom. And then, as I've mentioned in the videos, make sure to keep that worksheet really handy, because as we go through the rest of the modules, you are going to come back and edit that. So for example, if you decide that you're line of credit or you're wanting to really get serious about saving for a down payment on a new home, you're going to have to find a place to get that money. So you're going to have to go back to your budget worksheet and figure out where are you going to get that money. Maybe it is that you did already have a bit of a surplus and you can take it from there, but otherwise you have to figure out where is this money going to come from. And that leads me to the next point. They're probably one of my favorite and one of, in general, for all of our Sparty crowd, one of their favorite topics has been that top 5 ways to find the money. And they are easy tricks to do. So it's all about making sure that you're using your dependent care and your flex savings plan at work. I mean, that can save you thousands of dollars a year in taxes. It's making sure that if you're donating items to charity like the Salvation Army, that you're claiming the correct amount on your tax return. Again, that can save you thousands of dollars a year. We were on a call on Monday night with our longer-term Sparry clients, the ones who have been clients for longer, and we have a client on there, and they have paid down a crazy amount of credit card debt. I mean, I think they've paid like $13,000 of credit card debt down like over the last 9 months. I mean, it's been really astonishing. And one of the things that they did was they made changes to their cable and phone and internet. So Emily's actually working on an article on the best values for that. In her previous job where she did market research, she actually did a big project for the cable companies, and so she's really familiar in that area. So anyways, be sure, if you haven't checked that out, to watch that. And then the next step is to use Mint. Now, again, as I said on our call last time, there are a lot of budgeting softwares, free apps out there. You Need a Budget is a great one. Level Money. Level Money is good in the right situation. I find it a little bit, it's very simple. And I usually find that people who are really going to watch their budget on a regular basis want to go a little bit more in depth than that. So we recommend Mint because in general we feel like it does everything that we need it to do. And the importance of that is one of the biggest issues we hear from people is they're like, I started this budget and then, we were really committed to it. And then a few months later, it's just like, okay, well, it's just not happening anymore. And Mint or a free app is a great way to stay on task with that. Now, it's interesting because also the same client who was on the call on Monday that had paid down so much credit card debt, he was like, yeah, we haven't really been looking at Mint so much in the last few months. But I said, you know what, that is okay. There are going to be times when you're going to need that more than others. And the reason why I said it was okay for them is they have made tremendous progress. They've been able to free up this money and pay down debt, and they are in really great shape. I said, however, the two of you are thinking about moving to a new house soon. That's going to change the picture, and you're going to need to go right back to your Mint and figure out where things are going on. Or you're going to, they just had a second baby, and you're going to want to be saving more for college soon. And so I guess my point is I don't feel like people have to look at Mint every single week for the rest of their lives. There's going to be times when you're going to want to take a little bit of a break, and that's okay. It's just such a great tool to have there when you're starting to feel financially overwhelmed, and to be able to get things back in line and feel like you're making good decisions with your money. So I just said a whole lot there. I'm going to take a breath and see what questions, if people have questions, or Emily, can you think of some things that we should be talking about here as well?
So out of curiosity, I know that Anne said earlier that they're using Mint. can anyone else raise their hand if they're using Mint? Because if you're not using Mint, then we can also change the focus of this. So I'm going to ask Chally. Chally, you guys are using Mint? I unmuted you.
Yeah, we are, but we don't like that's the say, or as you were saying, we don't use it, we don't check it like weekly.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you guys want to find more money in your life to do more things?
Yeah, and I think we want to try to be better with just like we have James's car debt and our house debt and my student loan, but other than that, like I don't feel like we try very hard to just save money. Like we save money, but we don't have like a goal in mind, I guess.
Okay.
Like we want to have emergency fund and look for our future, but we don't have like a structured goal, I guess.
Fair enough. I can tell you that a goal might be though to like save enough money that you guys can retire at 45.
Yeah,
Out, travel for the rest of your life.
that might be a little early for us, but yeah, that'd be awesome.
Fair enough.
And also just plan for children and a family, I guess, financially being in a point where we can, have a family.
So Beth, I'll ask you this question because since I don't have kids, I mean, do you think that having kids significantly changes people's financial priorities and everything else that comes to money?
Well, yeah, I think that's a big change. I think once kids come, it's like, okay, time to get serious about this. It's not just us anymore. Like, you have to buy the diapers and childcare and all that stuff. One of my, I have a lot of financial planner friends, and it was interesting because when my husband and I were getting ready to have our first baby, and I think they had like 3 kids at the time, and he told me, he's like, the expenses don't go up by that much because you're maybe not going out to eat or going to the bars or whatever, spending money on some or traveling as much. I think that does swap out a little bit, but kids are still really darn expensive. So especially the daycare cost, the child care is a very expensive part. So I definitely think that's a time when people are looking to get back or to really focus on finances. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I think Emily and I have talked about adding another like bonus video or something on this idea, is the idea of automation. So if you in this one of the goals that would be awesome for a lot of people to have by the end of this process is if you can set things up automatically so that your budget is maintaining itself. So I always say, not everyone needs the budget. If someone is saving, if they're saving their goals towards their goals, they don't have debt or they're paying down the debt at the rate that they do, you don't necessarily need to be watching an app or anything all the time. So I hope that by the end of this process, once all of you sort of figure out your goals and where you're wanting to allocate money, that you automate it. So an example of that would be that you have an automatic transfer from your checking account, or maybe it's even direct from your paycheck every month to put X dollar amount into your emergency fund. Or as I mentioned earlier, my husband and I, we fund some college savings plans for our kids. That is set up on automatic deduction. So I don't even have to think about that. Like the 401k savings, that's automatic. And so what I can do then is, I've set up, all of the money going to our various goals, and then we can just spend the rest. And it doesn't matter where we spend it. It doesn't matter if we spend it eating out or if we spend it on the new water heater that month. It can, there's a huge value in automating everything to make sure that your goals are just sort of automatically being met. And then you can just spend the rest. It's just as easy as that, right? It's a little bit more tricky. But anyways, that's a place where it's a really good place for people to get to financially, is when they can get all that automated.
All right, Sarah, just a quick question for you. Are you using Mint or something else like that? Any answer is fine. I'm just curious.
Emily, did you say my name? Sarah's name? Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Yes, we did. Just as of last week, we sent up Mint, and I'm really excited about it, and I really like how everything's right in one spot. I'm still kind of like figuring it out, but I want to take advantage of it for the budgeting aspect about it. I think that would just be a really good tracker to kind of use, you know, just as a gauge to kind of figure out where we are. And, you know, it would limit our runs to Home Depot or Target once we saw.
Yeah, and as Beth said too, like Home Depot it's not usually the reason why you're having issues, but I think it's a great way to quickly and easily see where your spending is. It's been helpful for me. So that's good to know you're on it. We will keep talking about Mint for you, and let us know if you have any other questions on that. All right, Wendy.
Well, and I do really quick. I want to give some of you may have heard the Home Depot story before, but when Chris and I first got married, he was going to Home Depot all the time, and it started so many fights in our marriage in those early years. I'm like, really? You're going again? You are going to like seriously bankrupt us over this. And when we started looking at our expenses, it turned out that Home Depot was like less than 1% of our total annual expenses. So my point is that I'm not saying just go out and spend like crazy. That is not what I'm saying. However, I am saying that when you track your expenses, what may feel like these constant trips to Target or these constant trips to Home Depot really may not actually amount to as much. And so then you can feel free. You know what? We're saving how we're supposed to be. It doesn't matter if I go to Home Depot or Target and, you know, buy, a little something extra. It helps you to just understand, and we talk about this so much, it helps you to understand the financial implications of your decisions. And so you don't have to, you may be in a situation where you're trying to pay down debt, and so yes, you do need to, try to reduce expenses where you can, but it may not always be that way. And so also sometimes a budget can be stress relieving because it makes you realize that, you know what, it's not that big of a deal if we go to Home Depot and Target occasionally. So.
Awesome. I think it's a great one. Okay, so Wendy, how about you? You're kind of the last one to go.
Well, we have an Excel file that we've been using, and we just adjust it every month. Like we know if the kids are going to be in daycare for 15 days or 20 days, so we adjust it like that. But I think we might start using Mint because I like that goal setting functionality and like the tracking. So I mean, we take out cash for certain things, but at the end of the month, we don't really have a summary of how we did. I mean, we've been on it for a while, so we're doing pretty good, but I think we might be starting with Mint and letting go of Excel.
And I'm trying to think, Wendy, what if you're saying that your child care costs can fluctuate a fair amount from month to month, is that correct?
Well, I mean, it depends because you know that Chris is a teacher, yeah. So if he has days off, our younger two are in daycare, and one of them we have to always pay 5 days a week unless he's out a whole week. But the other one, he can have like vacation days, and depending on where the month falls, we can go anywhere from 20 to 24 days, and those 4 days can be a couple $100. Right. And then there's field trips included in that, which, we haven't had more than like $35 a month, but that changes. So,
yeah. When you go to do that in Mint, Wendy, and anyone else, if you have an expense, okay, so in that particular situation, and given your situation where you're trying to pay down some debt, I would actually recommend that you budget for the higher end of it. And so what that could potentially mean is in the months where the child care cost is less, then you're putting a little bit, just putting more towards the credit cards in those months. So that's one way to look at it. And again, this would be something great when we meet one-on-one, when I meet one-on-one with each of you to talk about this, because then there's other expenses. So for example, our utilities, I just lump them all together and average them. So I put together, our gas and our electric and our water, and I put that all into one, and I just average that out. So you can go either way with that, but depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Also, we have had another, again, a longer-term Sparry client run into some issues with the credit card goal setting function in Mint. So we have this wonderful intern named Christian, and Christian is supposed to be solving the mystery behind the goal function for the credit card in Mint. So we'll be releasing that as soon as we figure out what's going on there. So, Emily, is anyone else?
No, we hit everyone. So you want to go ahead and go on to the next topic?
Yeah, I mean, the next topic that I was going to go on to, I guess the next thing I was going to do is just give you a slight preview for what is to come next. So does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask before I give you the preview on our next section?
All right, I'm going to do a test. And if you do raise your hand on the web app. Oh, Chally. All right, I'm going to unmute her. All right, Chally, you're unmuted.
Oh no, I meant to like I was trying to put my hand down.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'll mute you. No drama. All right, Beth, I think you're good to go then.
Okay, cool. And if any of you have any other questions that pop up, email them to me or Emily. Either of us will answer your questions as they come up for sure. So to give you a preview to the next section, so you'll be receiving the videos tomorrow, and there's quite a few. I think there's like 11 videos. Now, most of them on average are just a couple minutes long, so they're pretty short. And it's going to get into all the nuts and bolts on the types of accounts that you need to be saving to. I will tell you, so again, I understand most people on this call have kids, have busy lives. So there may be some of these modules that don't make sense for you to watch. For example, there's a whole module on or a whole video on credit cards. So if you don't have outstanding credit card debt, then you don't need to watch that one. The other one, I would say, there's a video on taxable investments. So these are the investments that are different than your IRAs. They're investments that you have to pay taxes on. So it's like if you just went out and said, hey, I just want to buy some Apple stock and, not do it inside of your IRA, that in particular video, unless you're really wanting to do that type of investing, that may be a good one to skip. So if you're looking for one to skip, that might be a good one. But otherwise, I think that one of the best videos in it is the video on prioritization. And you need to watch a few of the other videos leading up to it in order for it to really make sense. But in that prioritization video, I talk about exactly what we were talking about tonight. Like, should I put more into the emergency fund, or should we be paying down the home equity line of credit? And should I be paying down these student loans, and how much, but I want to balance that and put money into my 401k. So I go through that in the prioritization video. Again, I say that with a big asterisk. I'm going to talk about, in general, the principles behind that, but that is really excellent stuff to talk to me in your one-on-one, so I can customize it to each of your own situations. So with that, Emily, do you have anything to say, or anyone have any questions?
I'll just say it again. So you'll get all those videos tomorrow, and next week's meeting will be just the same format. So we're trying to make it really loose because a lot of these things are interdependent. So when you start realizing you want to start saving more, whatever your goal is, we might have to come back to the budget, and that's totally fine. So come back next week with your questions. Our goal is that each week you get a little bit further along. So by the end of it, you guys are totally confident and totally in control of your finances and able to kind of go out and make things happen. So I'm going to send you guys an email too. We would love your feedback on this. This is the first time we've done it in this actual format. So we would love to know what works well and what doesn't, and your feedback from the videos. Did the videos work? Did they not work? Honest, candid feedback would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Well, good luck, everyone. We're excited to hear about everything you can accomplish in the next week. Hopefully, those of you in the process of putting that budget together or starting Mint, go for it. We're excited to hear about it. And again, let us know if you have any questions in the meantime.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. See you guys next week.